zkušenosti, každopádně je to určitě člověk, který je nejvíce zasvěcen i v oblasti strategie SafeNetu, protože spolupracuje vlastně dlouhodobě na celkové SafeNet strategii. Shodou okolností stál za vznikem společnosti Hart, kterou jsme akvizovali před 3 roky, a vlastně stál i za zrodem vůbec prvního řešení autentizace formou služby. So, Jason?
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
I think you should.
No, it's on. Yeah, it's fine. Good morning, everyone. Morning? Morning. Morning. Okay, so before we start, I'll give you a bit of background about myself. I've been in information security for about 20 years now. For about 8 years of my life, I was an ethical hacker. Ethical in the sense that I had permission to pretty much hack into most of the Fortune 100 around the world, of course with their permission. Pleased to say 99.5% of the time successful as well. Really for the next 14 minutes, I'm just going to give you an insight to actually what's happening. Hopefully we can have some fun on the way, so that means you guys and ladies talking to me as well, so it's kind of 2 ways. And really just kind of give you a view of why some of the breaches that are happening, and an insight how hopefully they can be prevented. Any questions? Everyone understand English? Great, okay. So how many are technical? Any technical people here? A couple? Okay. How many business? Okay. How many in information security in general? Okay. How many in IT security or cyber security? Okay. And the rest are just here. Okay. So, did you know this year alone there have been 9 billion individual data breaches? 9 billion. And we're not even 12 months in. So that's individual records that have been compromised. Phenomenal.
You mean from commercial companies or
commercial companies? Okay? And that's the ones that have only been reported. This year alone, or in the past 12 months, we've spent $80 billion on security products. 80 billion. So 9 billion individual breaches, 80 billion in products, and in the past 12 months we've had more breaches than ever. So I'm kind of a simple person. 80 billion more breaches. So it seems the more we spend, the more breaches occur. So this whole approach to spend less breaches, maybe, yeah. Sorry. So maybe the whole approach on how we're looking at information security and protecting our business really has to change. Data, it's the new oil, yeah? We need to protect, control. The world is about data. If you look at every single breach that has occurred, it's all about data. And we're going to talk a lot more about data in due course. Is anyone aware of this new draft act coming into place in the Czech Republic? No one's aware of this. Everyone's aware of it. Okay, I was just checking I'm in the right country. Alright. This is not just happening in the Czech Republic, it's happening across the world. 2 things are going to happen. A number of things are going to happen, in fact. The number of breaches that are reported are going to increase. Insurance companies that wear you liability, public liability, indemnity insurance are going to start requesting that you prove to them that you're taking security seriously. And really, it's about protecting what's important within your business. How many of you protect data in your business? 1. Okay. I'm going to pick on you, sorry. Yeah, apologies. So with that data you're protecting, is it all pieces of data or particular types of data? Particular types of data. Yeah? The problem we've got is organizations are protecting the perimeter. And when I say to organizations around the world, what is it you're actually trying to protect? They don't know. So how can you start applying security products and solutions when you don't really know what you're protecting? So this is what this act does. It's going to start getting you to focus on what's important within your business. So if you were breached, what would the impact of particular types of data have to your reputation, to your share price maybe, to your integrity? This act comes into force in 2015 January, and I think it's a really, really good thing, but it's kind of really scary as well because people do not know what they have to protect. They're going to keep spending the same old money on the same old form of protection. And as we've seen from the previous slides, it's not working. So, what a great world we live in. How many of you have one of these or a similar flavour or brand? Yeah? Is that it? I've seen more than that here this morning. Yeah? The whole way we interact now with the internet, our businesses has changed fundamentally. We don't store data locally anymore. It's in the cloud, it's in virtual environments. And we're creating more and more data on a daily basis. How many of you remember a backup tape? No one remembers this. Come on guys and ladies, this is kind of early, so we need to put our hands up here. How many people remember a backup tape? Okay, fine. So the ones who don't remember what a backup tape is, a backup tape is this tape, big tape, and every week or every month, businesses would back up their sensitive data. Well, not sensitive data, their data that run their businesses. So in the event there was a disaster recovery or something went wrong, they could back up and they could restore. That particular tape, how do we protect it? We put it into a safe, or we have a third-party organisation come and collect that tape. Why did we protect that tape in a safe or have a third party come and take it away? Because it was important, and it was kind of sensitive. And if we'd lost that backup tape, the likelihood of having a huge impact to your business was very, very high. We don't have backup tapes anymore. What do? We back up our data to the cloud or to virtual environments. The issue is there's no real security control around that because we physically don't see the tape. So the way we use technology and access data has changed fundamentally. Does anyone know what this is? Right? This is the FBI's data center in 1950. All these little drawers, pieces of little cards with information on individuals. That was their data center. It works, yeah? This is our data center now, or the bit that we can see. Fundamentally, things have changed so rapidly. In the year 2000, we generated 2 exabytes of data. Huge amount. 2 exabytes. Last year, we generated that in a day. And that's going to continue growing. Everything we do is generating data. That data is great because we make some very, very good business decisions on it. We do analytics, we can reduce costs, we can preempt particular threats or preempt production lines or ERP systems on the product that we need. So it's good. But as I said, this data now is the new oil. The bad guys want your data. They don't care what type of business you're in, or if it's your personal information. They just want data. Why do they want data? Because it's so easy to get. And it's really, really, really easy to get. So types of data. We have structured data, data in transit, data at rest. So different types of data. And the bad guys know this. And it's easy for them to follow the data. So we've gone from mobiles, so from mobility. Does anyone remember a modem? I know there were 2 people. Oh, we've got more people put their hands up. Great. Okay. A modem. So we kind of started installing modems in the businesses, we would dial in and we would access BBS bulletin boards. Very slow, but at the time really, really cool. Then we evolved to kind of virtualization, cloud and big data. And this has happened over the course of 5 years. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 years? Apple Watches, yeah? Internet of Things. And I'll give you a real story about Internet of Things, and it kind of really worried me. And it's going to increase those data breaches. So, tractors. Everyone know what a tractor is? So there's two particular brands. You've got Massey Ferguson and John Deere. They're the two main brands. One's red, one's green, by the way. And it already has enablement for Internet of Things on it. So these tractors now have technology which communicates straight to the cloud. And what happens when a farmer is farming his land? It can take soil samples, it can test the quality of the crop. The farmer can take that data or subscribe to that data to understand what's going on. So he can, inject, different fertilizers or whatever to increase the yield. But also what's happening is the commodity markets are purchasing that data from regions. Based on that information, they can predict what's going to happen to the crop yield in certain regions and countries. And then obviously increase the stock level or decrease the stock level. What the bad guys are going to work out is actually, if I compromise the data and divide it by 2, they can start putting money on the commodity markets and controlling the stock price. It's just one example of what will happen. So we're in this world of data's everywhere, breaches are rampant, and we're going to embrace even more technology that not secure it. It's a great place to be here. So if I was an information security officer or a CTO, which I suppose I am, I'm kind of, oh my God, what do I do? Where do I go? I'm spending more money and there's more breaches. And by the way, we've got all these regulation acts coming in, we've got compliance. What do I do? I just keep spending money on the same old thing, yeah? It works. So, for me, a new approach is definitely required, because what we're doing isn't working. It really isn't working. So, let's get back to the basics. Like I said, I've been in information security for many years now, and when I got into the industry, there was 3 fundamental basics I was taught. The first one was confidentiality. How confidential is my information, or different types of my information? So maybe a quick crash course in kind of risk assessment. How many people do IT risk assessments? Okay, some of you. So whenever you're putting a new IT system in, or particular kind of process, you do a risk assessment, or you should be. You should be doing this for information security as well. So the first of all is, what is it you're trying to protect? What are the key assets from a data point of view? What's the impact if that data is breached from a confidentiality point of view? Also, the integrity. What would happen if the data was changed, the integrity of it changed? You may be manufacturing. You rely on the data to predict the amount of volume you require in your production. So if a bad guy was to come in, change that data, and reduce it so that you don't have enough production for your supply, it could be an issue. In fact, a very large online organisation had a very public integrity attack. A particular product was changed from $90 to $9. 1 month later, the ERP system kicked in, placed an order on their suppliers. This carried on for 2 quarters. Fastest selling product ever, biggest loss ever. Integrity attack. The next one is availability. Availability is kind of resolved. Virtualization and cloud kind of deals with that. But if I was a bad guy, it's very easy for me to come into your systems and switch off. Because everything is IP enabled now. So before, the bad guy would have to come physically into your data center and pull the power lead out, but then the backup generators would kick in, providing there was another power lead on the other side. But now, it's a click of a button, switches everything off. The next one is accountability. How do you make individuals accountable? If one of your employees had done something, can you make them accountable? If a bad guy was to compromise you, could you prove and make it accountable? And then auditability. How can you provide an audit trail to back up that an individual did something? So for me, these are the basics of information security. And to be truthful, I travel the world on a weekly basis, and this is totally forgotten. When I speak to individuals and businesses about the CIA model, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, everyone looks at me blank. So you need to consider what data you're trying to protect in your business, why you're trying to protect it, and apply the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, accountability, and auditability to it. You do a very, very basic risk assessment on that. Straight away, you can highlight what data are you trying to protect in your business. Also, assets of your data. In order for a risk or an attack to happen, there must be a vulnerability around the system, and there must be a threat. So without a threat and a vulnerability, there's no risk. Okay? And if you want to talk about that in more detail after, I can. So, welcome to the next generation. We kind of started out, the first day when I got into kind of the information security kind of industry was using modems to dial in and gain access to organizations. Then the web browser exploded and the internet exploded. And the first stage was kind of relatively easy to get into businesses, very time consuming, yeah? 56 kilobits per second, it was time consuming. Then the browser became a bit quicker. But now, it could take you less than 1 minute to gain access to your businesses. Literally, less than 1 minute. And I hope to prove that in due course. So, the virtual world or virtual backdoors. And that virtual backdoor, in most of the case, is a password. Every major breach that's occurred has occurred via a password breach. How many people have heard of Stuxnet? Yeah? Stuxnet was a very well publicised piece of malware about 18 months ago. Everyone talks about Stuxnet, the malware. How do you think they got the malware into the system? The malware just didn't arrive on the email. They had to compromise that environment first of all. How was that environment compromised? They're using a password. Yeah? So they were already in the system. Stuxnet just caused something else to happen. So password is the virtual backdoor. However, it's best to stick to what you know, yeah? Agree? Everyone agree? Maybe? Maybe not. Is it obvious when you've been hacked? Anyone? Yeah? How many of you would know when you've been breached? No? You all know. You all know when you've been breached, yeah? How many people look at log files? How many people look at log files? Yeah? Who's heard of Target? Target breach? Yeah? They knew they'd been breached. They just didn't look at the log files. Yeah? How many of you have IDS, IDP? Intrusion detection systems? No? It's quite lonely here, ladies and gentlemen. You most probably have intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, unless you look at the logs files, it's pointless. An example of different points of vulnerabilities in a retail environment. There's so many points of attack. But you need to think about the data. If we're controlling, protecting the data, who cares? So, from now on, I want you to forget everything that you know about information security, other than CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and capability. Forget everything else. New mindset. It's pretty simple. I want to transform your mind from breach prevention to breach acceptance. My slides are going wrong. Why breach acceptance? If you can only accept you're going to be breached, you'll start thinking about how you're going to protect your data. Just accept it, you will be breached. And I'll prove this in a minute. So, by accepting you're going to be breached, you start focusing on what are you trying to protect in your business. And of course, that's data. Think like a bad guy. What is he after? Anyone want to take a guess? Data. So all he wants is your data. So what should you do now? One, you need to understand where your data is, what types of data you have, what's the impact from confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Once you understand that, you can start protecting it. By killing the data. How do you kill the data? What do I mean by kill the data? If a bad guy compromises your data and takes it out of your trusted environment, you want to render it useless. The only way you can do that, sorry, it's dropped, floppy, is one, control access to the data. How do you control access to the data? You apply two-factor authentication. You remove static passwords. I don't care if you change your passwords every 30, 60, 90 days. That gives a bad guy 30, 60, 90 days to compromise the password, and it only takes seconds to do. So you need to apply two-factor authentication. Very, very simple to do. Then you need to add crypto. Add cryptographic controls to the data. Virtualization, cloud. If you're putting data in the cloud or in virtual environments, you need to secure it. Have compliance requirements. You're kind of all going to have compliance requirements come January next year. High value data. Like I said, it's not all data that's high value. I understand what's high value to you in your business. But more importantly, these guys, they hate crypto, yeah? So if you're applying two-factor authentication to control access to the data, you're applying encryption, controls, and key management to your virtual environments and cloud environments, it's rendered useless. More importantly, if you're doing the basics, authentication, encryption, and appropriate key management, you're compliant to this. You have nothing to worry about. And it's so simple to do. So, let's have some fun. We're going to do a live attack to prove to you how easy you can be compromised. So we're going to take the attack to one stage. So I'm within the law, okay? I'm not breaking the law. What I'm going to do a karma attack. A karma attack is where I get all of your Wi-Fi devices to connect to me automatically. So if you all look at your Wi-Fi devices now, you'll see that you're either connected to your home office, your business, or a trusted Wi-Fi. So please have a look. So what a camera attack does is it's listening to all your Wi-Fi enabled devices. And one of the problems with Wi-Fi is that it's always probing for or listening to see if the trusted Wi-Fi is there. So if you've all configured your laptops, your tablets, your iPhones, your Androids, only connect to trusted Wi-Fis. Because we know connecting to public Wi-Fis can be a bit insecure sometimes, or most of the time, if not all the time. So what I'm doing, I'm telling your devices, I am that trusted Wi-Fi. And that's all I've done. So your devices have connected to me automatically. If I wanted to take it one step further now, I could do something called SSL strip. Meaning, any communication traffic which is protected by HTTPS, I strip out. Meaning I can see all of your usernames and all of your passwords. So last week in the press, you've seen the celebrities who've been compromised. Nothing to do with Apple. It was the celebrities who were in the wrong. In the wrong in two ways. One, why film yourself naked anyway, and then put it up into the cloud? It's like point one, just don't do it. Stick to the old-fashioned camcorder, yeah? Two, they've been compromised like this. Okay? Karma attack. Really, really simple to do. So let's show you who's been compromised. Well, compromised from a karma point of view. I haven't collected any data at all. Everything I've done is legal, okay, and I haven't broken any laws. But this is the first stage. The second stage takes 2 seconds. So, what we're going to do is bring up somewhere. So, anyone recognise? Oh. Interesting. There we go. Everyone see that? So what we have here, these are some devices that are connected automatically. Put your hands up. Anyone there? No? Okay. You're there? Okay. So these devices are connected automatically already. Now if I scroll down, let's try and do this. These are all the Wi-Fi's S4C, who's C4C office? Anyone C4C? These are all the Wi-Fi's that all of your devices are broadcasting. So the whole list, every Wi-Fi that you've all connected to will be listed here. And these are the devices that have been could have been compromised right now. So, if we go back, all we have to do now, other than log in, is enable something called SSL strip, which for some reason is disappeared. So this is the dashboard of the device. And this is the device here, if anyone can see it. I can connect a battery to it, drop it anywhere. That's how easy it is to compromise a username and password. Without phishing, phasing attacks, using social networks to extract information as well. So unless you're using two-factor authentication, you're going to be compromised. Because if you're using two-factor authentication and they do the second part of the attack, SSL strip, when they capture that username and password, the password is one time here. So when the bad guy goes to use the password again, it's rendered useless, it's pointless. So that's your first line of defense. I was with NATO in the NATO summit. I advise NATO on cybersecurity issues. And one of the things I've told them is, sorry, I'm blinding everyone here with a laser, is if they can mandate two-factor authentication on virtual environments and cloud environments, and businesses as well, we would reduce the breaches that we're seeing at the moment by 70%. Because it's the first line of attack, and it's invisible. So, if there's one thing I beg you and ask you to do, one, to protect your data, and two, to be compliant with the new regulations coming out in January 2015 is use two-factor authentication. Most of you already use it, but you're only using it for a small part of your business. Why don't you just roll it out everywhere, maximizing the investment you've made? The second thing is understand what type of data you have in your business. Understand the impact if it's breached from a confidentiality point of view, integrity point of view, and the availability. But more importantly, go back to your business. Tell your business owners, tell your board members. Breach acceptance. Don't assume it's never going to happen to you, because it will. And because most of the time, more than 70% of the time, the breach occurs by a password being compromised. The bad guys are invisible on your network because the firewalls you have in place, all the security controls you have in place at the moment are designed to accept a valid username and password. Thank you. Any questions?
Mám mikrofon, abyste byli slyšet. Nějaká otázka? Okay, thank you, Jason, for that.